everyone. My name is Christie Currie, and I graduated from Wellington in 2015. And I actually think it's important to start out noting that I actually only went to Wellington for 3 years. I was here for 7th and 8th grade, and then I came back for my senior year of high school. Having gone elsewhere, it gave me an appreciation, a perspective on what education should look like that I otherwise never would have had. If my parents had not encouraged me to challenge the status quo of what success in a career should look like, and had I not experienced Wellington, I guarantee you I wouldn't be where I am now, and I would not have done anything worth getting up on any sort of stage to talk to you guys about. After middle school, I left Wellington thinking I wanted the stereotypical big high school experience. But what I found is what that actually meant was that I was expected to fit into some perfectly formed mold where self-expression was patronized and school was just a process of checking boxes. It took coming back to Wellington for me to find my voice. 3 years here was all it took for the trajectory of my life to be changed. But my journey back to Wellington was not an easy one, and that's for many reasons. I came back to Wellington at one of the lowest points in my life. In the fall of my freshman year of high school, so the year right after I left Wellington, I was diagnosed with a rare form of head and neck cancer. Suddenly and without warning, my entire life changed. Moving forward and onward was one of the hardest and most draining things that I've ever endured. After the initial hurdle of coming to terms with my situation, I spent the following 2.5 years enduring over 10 painful surgeries, including 2 recurrences of the cancer. I worked hard to find the silver linings, and I did stay strong, but the harsh reality is that no matter how hard you try and no matter what facade of strength you try and put up, cancer does take so much control away from you. Part of the coping process is finding peace with that, but when I felt like it was also starting to control my education, I drew the line. How you view education and how hard you work in school is largely a personal choice, especially as you get older. I'll admit I was far too complacent up until that point. I didn't see the bigger picture until this outside force threatened to come in and take my opportunity to learn away from me. Giving in and letting grades and school go down the drain would have been the easy thing to do, but I refused to let this set the tone for the rest of my academic career. When I wasn't resting or recovering, I was studying. I spent my first 3 high school summers with my head down in a book in the middle of an empty classroom making up work. As I approached senior year and the surgeries became further and further apart, I finally had the chance to come up for air. But what I found is that amid all of the chaos, I lost connection with myself. Despite how hard I worked to get that schoolwork done, I still felt like my hands were tied behind my back. I didn't know who I was, what I wanted, or what was next for me. I was caught in the middle of what felt like a hurricane for 3 years, and I had no clue how to even begin to pick up the pieces from all of the rubble. I knew I needed a change. I needed to do something to rebuild my vision of myself, and I needed to go somewhere that would give me the freedom to explore that. I knew I needed to go back to Wellington for my final year of high school. I remember coming in, it makes me emotional, I remember coming in towards the end of the summer with my mom and meeting with Dr. Turwin, who had just taken on his new role then as head of the upper school. He personally took it upon himself to expedite the process. School was literally like 3 weeks away from starting. He felt my struggle, he heard my stories of trauma, but through all of that chaos, he saw me and he saw my potential. He saw the opportunity that Wellington would give me to rewrite my story and take back control. I walked out that day practically in tears like I am now, feeling like the weight of the world had been lifted off of my shoulders. The only word to describe my senior year at Wellington is transformational. I was pushed hard to ask myself personal questions and have my own opinions. One of Dr. Turwin's first words of advice to me as my marine biology teacher was to speak up and find my voice. Wellington teachers gave me a glimpse into new possibilities I otherwise never would have seen. The sky was the limit. They stress common values while also understanding what is core to each and every student's motivation and drive. Any traditional mold of who a student should be is absolutely thrown out the window with Wellington teachers. Too often, people realize late in life that they have never felt truly fulfilled, and that is often because the journey of self-discovery can be very, very vulnerable. But what makes Wellington different from other schools is that at an early age you're pushed to think about your why and what your passions are. There's then this kind of magical unsaid premise that you then take those values and you bring them into everything you do at Wellington with strong conviction. Taking ownership of expressing yourself and those values in ways that are uniquely your own. What you will find when you look up at the students of Wellington is that they actually each have such different visions of who they want to become, yet have such a strong unity at the same time. Wellington students are open-minded and have a natural want to listen to each other's ideas and worldviews and incorporate them into their own perspectives. They take responsibility for their own viewpoint, but never get stuck in their own paradigm. What a powerful and utterly rare combination it is to be so self-aware and empathetic. One of the most significant experiences for me was in an advanced composition class. In that class, we were pushed to reflect on our experiences and sense of self. I had caged up all of my emotions over the years, and Miss Savatka knew that this class was a chance to help me make sense of what had happened to me. One very personal piece I wrote was a letter to cancer, which was then published by the James, and I then went on to create a blog full of essays that have now reached thousands of cancer patients over the years. Wellington taught me and teaches every student how to articulate their most deeply held beliefs. I also took a leadership in business class where entrepreneurs and game changers came in every week to tell us their story. I was amazed by their sense of purpose and how they incorporated that into their professional career. It prompted me and my friend Michael Herring to start our own e-commerce site for our senior independent project, which we won first place for out of our senior class. I then went on to Miami University, where I used the foundation that Wellington gave me to continue to work towards my visions, even through another cancer relapse. I majored in both marketing and entrepreneurship. In my sophomore year, I couldn't stop thinking about the mental side of my experience with cancer. I became obsessed with the correlation between mental and physical health during developmental ages, and I saw the lack of scalable technology solutions for psychosocial workers in children's hospitals. So that was really the start of my company, and it's named Zandaland and is a holistic digital platform and virtual world that makes mental health of pediatric cancer patients a priority. Through Zandaland, children can learn about their illness in a way that makes sense to them as they're guided through educational, coping, and expressive activities. Zandaland also allows clinicians to view and collect data on a patient's mental state in real time and drive intervention at the point of need. By the time I was a junior at Miami, I was pitching in competitions to rooms full of 60 venture capitalists from around the country and winning. By senior year, I was in a startup accelerator program in Cincinnati and named to Cincinnati's 25 under 25 list. In May, I graduated at the top of my class in the business school. I believed in myself and my vision enough to turn down what would have been dream job offers out of college and take a leap of faith and set Zandaland in the right direction. Zandaland was just named as one of the top Ohio companies to watch in 2020. My journey with Zandaland continues, but it has also created other opportunities and connections in the entrepreneurial world, which has led me to my other dream job in corporate innovation for a global consulting firm. I'm 22 years old, and I have both the compassion and the competence to inspire leaders of hospital systems to work with software engineers and developers who are much different than me, to go toe-to-toe with CEOs, and to give other kids diagnosed with illness the tools that they need to reframe their perspective. Kids leave Wellington trailblazing their own path. I'm not necessarily talking about them knowing what career they want or even what field of study they want to go into. Wellington kids leave knowing that their voice has worth in this world. They leave knowing how to tell their story even as it is still being written. They use empathy to inspire others around shared visions. They move forward with purpose, even if they don't always know what is ahead. And they constantly pursue new and different knowledge to propel them into their next chapters. I once heard a saying that was along the lines of, if you can't be that big mystical door that opens up to a changed and better world, then be the hinges that prop it open for someone else to make a difference. That is what Wellington does for its students. It gradually pivots open the door, giving young, ambitious minds the tools to look through and envision how they one day could bust that door down. So, thank you guys.